Welcome to the Acronis CyberApp Education Series. In this video, we will do a quick recap of the components of CyberApp, and then we will talk in detail about the connector, callback handler, integration settings, and the UI builder. We will also see a demonstration of the integration settings and callbacks. In previous videos, we saw that there are three different components for CyberApps: vendor portal, vendor cloud, callback handler, and connector and Acronis cyber platform. In this video, we will learn more about the connector, the callback handler, and integration settings for CyberApps. The connector and the callback handler are the only two components that ISVs will have to build and host in their environment/platform, depending on the CyberApp scenarios and use cases. What is the connector? As the name suggests, it is a component that connects Acronis cyber platform with the ISV platform. The diagram shows the connector as an independent component, and its relation between the ISV's service and Acronis cyber platform. The primary purpose of the connector is to enable data exchange between the ISV and Acronis platform. For example, CyberApps may pull the platform users and their access rights to provision them on the vendor's service, enable the service, and push the ISV's service events, alerts, etc., to the platform. The connector must also take care of handling authentication with Acronis cyber platform. To be able to authenticate to the platform, the ISV must obtain client credentials and use them in the connector. The authentication with API client credentials follows the OAuth 2.0 authorization framework, and uses its client credentials flow. According to this flow, the connector must use the API client credentials to request an access token and specify the received access token in the authorization header, according to the bearer authentication scheme. Detailed documentation about the connector is published in our developer guide. It contains examples, code samples, and detailed descriptions about everything related to connector. What is a callback handler? A callback handler is an API endpoint that accepts HTTP requests from Acronis, processes them according to the specified format, sends the corresponding action to be executed by the ISV's service, and returns the operation result. The diagram shows a simplified flow, where a user sends an HTTP request from Acronis cyber platform to the third-party service, via the CyberApp using callbacks. On the Acronis side, API callback gateway receives HTTP requests from a user, and sends them to the third-party URL, a callback handler, in a specific format. On the third-party system side, a callback handler receives HTTP requests from Acronis and responds in a specific format. There are certain default callbacks that must be handled on the ISV's service, such as callback for application enablement, callback for tenants mapping, etc. However, to enrich the experience of the CyberApp, ISVs can create as many custom callbacks as needed. For example, a security-focused CyberApp may need actions like running a scan, cleaning up infected files, etc. Or, a password management application may need callbacks like creating new users, resetting passwords, etc. MSPs can trigger such actions in the Acronis platform via the CyberApp, and then the callback handler on the ISV platform executes the action once it receives the request from Acronis cyber platform. The result of the execution is then sent back as a response via the callback handler to Acronis platform. Later in this video, we will see how to create callbacks and assign them to the CyberApp UI. Integration settings are the configuration settings that a CyberApp may require. Those settings are: setting up the connection, ability to perform customer mapping. Now, let's look at both of these settings in a little more detail. What is connection setup? Every third-party product requires credentials or security tokens against which an application can be authenticated and enabled for a specific MSP. Connection setup settings for the CyberApp is specifically used for this purpose. Some products may require a username and password, some products may require API tokens, or a combination of these, or something completely different. ISVs can fully customize the CyberApp connection settings they need by just selecting the required fields from the various options available in the vendor portal. What is customer mapping? Customer mapping enables the co-relation between the MSP's tenants in Acronis and the MSP's tenants in a third-party product platform. By mapping specific tenants, MSPs can selectively enable the integration for those tenants. Mapping also helps in correct data transactions. The screenshots here show how these settings appear in the MSP's console in Acronis. The sections highlighted in red are what each ISV can customize. Later in the video, we will see how to configure these settings. UI Builder is the most interesting and magical part of the CyberApp. It is a drag-and-drop builder available on the vendor portal and provides the ability to create custom UI pages for a CyberApp. The UI builder allows designing and building of forms and pages without any knowledge of programming languages. It also streamlines the process for the developers by removing the necessity to develop the front-end part, focusing on the business logic part of the code, keeping the unified look and feel of the developed interfaces, and developing the interfaces securely. UI Builder provides a set of elements of differing complexities that allows you to build any type of user interface. The set includes the following elements: form elements, input, button, radio, select, etc. Content elements, text, image, link, etc. Layout elements, divider, tabs, table, accordion, etc. Each element has its own configuration, like label, width, size, etc., configurable input validation settings, and dependencies, like whether the element is visible or enabled depending on form controls, to support scenarios of any complexity. We will see the UI Builder in action later in this video. Now, let's take a brief look at a demonstration of the vendor portal. In this demonstration, first we will see how to create and configure the connection setup form, and then we will see how to create and configure the callbacks. Now, let's take a look at how to create the connection setup form your CyberApp. In this form, you will need to specify the parameters that you will need from the MSPs for authentication to your service. In this example, those parameters are username and password. Let's add these two fields in the connection setup form, by simply dragging and dropping the respective fields from the list of available options. For the selected fields, make sure to specify all the configuration items, like model property, label, etc. Once you have added everything, you can also preview the form by clicking the Preview button. As you see, the fields are automatically added to the form with ideal font size, padding, etc. There is no need for you to adjust these things. You can also add elements, like header, additional text and other elements to make the experience better for the MSPs. This part of the vendor portal where you can customize and build your own UI is called the UI Builder. The UI Builder will be used extensively for configuring all the areas of the CyberApp. Once we have made all the changes, we just need to save the form and deploy the application. As soon as the CyberApp is deployed, MSPs will start seeing the new connections setup form in the Acronis console. For the purpose of demos, we will show the Acronis console part at the end of the video series with all the changes we have made in all modules. Now, let's learn how to create callbacks. Recall that callbacks will be needed to perform any action related to your product from the CyberApp, for example, running a scan, cleaning up a machine or creating users, etc. Remember our scenario of creating a CyberApp for a password management solution. For this app, we will need actions like creating users, getting list of users and resetting password of the users. All of these actions will be achieved via the callbacks. Let's learn how to create them in the vendor portal. Click on the Callbacks menu, located on the left menu of the vendor portal, and then click the button Add New Callback. First, specify the properties of the callbacks like name and description. Then, specify the request in the JSON format. Last, specify the response that includes status, description, response code as well as body in the JSON format. You can add multiple responses, like in this case, we have added one for success and one for error. Once you have specified everything, click Save to save the callback. Later in other videos, we will see how to assign callbacks to the UI. Key components for a CyberApp include connector and callback handler, that need to be built and hosted by ISV. With UI Builder, you can create and customize the UI for your CyberApp. Creating and configuring integration settings and connection setup form. Thank you for watching this video. You can find a full technical on our developer.acronis.com platform.